Hello Whovians and welcome to my latest Doctor Who review, where today I review Doctor Who Father's Day, starring Christopher Eccleston as the 9th Doctor. Father's Day, this is the 8th episode of the first series of the new series of Doctor Who, and the basic plot is as follows. Peter Allen Tyler, the father of Rose and husband of Jackie, died on the 7th of November 1987, the day of Stuart Hoskins and Sarah Clark's wedding. Rose was just a baby at the time. Jackie told the young Rose that nobody was there for Pete when he died and that the hit-and-run driver was never found. Now grown up, Rose asks the Doctor to take her to see him alive, but on a whim ends up changing his fate, not realising the consequences of such a paradox. After all, the Doctor has saved so many lives. What could the real consequences be over a man alive in the world who wasn't alive before? Okay, Father's Day. Well, wow. That's all I can say. Father's Day is an amazing Doctor Who episode. I really love this one. I would describe Father's Day as the most unorthodox episode in this series. It's very rare that you get an episode like this which places so much focus on the companion. As good as Christopher Eccleston is as the Doctor in this one, it's definitely Rose that steals the show this time. Billie Piper is amazing in this episode. She is phenomenal as Rose. I can see totally why she was cast in this role. Yes, she does do a lot of crying, but I think in this one it's completely warranted. Father's Day is very unique in the sense that it is one of the most emotional Doctor Who episodes. I found myself getting quite teary-eyed watching this actually, and the episode has quite an effect on me. I don't know why. I really got sucked into the emotion. Basically, they established that Rose's father had died when she was a baby, and Rose wants the chance to see him, and of course she changes his fate and she saves his life, which causes a paradox which affects time, which is why the Reaper creatures are coming in and affecting everything that's going on. And of course this causes problems between Rose and the Doctor. He was dubious about doing this in the first place, and he did say, be careful what you wish for, but of course Rose, being who she is, she wants to meet her dad and she wants to save him and she wants to have him back, which is totally understandable. But the Doctor and Rose get into a massive argument, and he calls her, he says something like, I did it again, I picked another stupid ape. This episode is great as well in establishing the lore of the show in terms of the rules of time travel, how the Doctor can't just do whatever the fuck he wants. He needs to know what he's doing. He can't change a fixed point in time, and Pete Tyler's death is a fixed point in time, and Rose doesn't understand that, unfortunately, at this point. In the end, it comes down to Pete Tyler realising what is going on, and he realises that he should have died when that car came past. Up to that point, and leading up to that, they really build up the relationship between Pete and Rose, the father-daughter dynamic. The only thing I would say is that it is a bit unbelievable how quick Pete realises that Rose is his daughter from the future. I suppose it's not that unbelievable, really, with the TARDIS and the Reapers and everything, and with the way Rose looks. But I don't know, it did seem a bit quick how he suddenly cottoned on to the fact that she was his future daughter. It took Jackie a bit longer to realise, which was, more believable, I think. I guess they needed to do it quicker for the story. A lot of this episode are very emotional scenes dedicated to Pete and Rose. Like, there's a scene where they're in the church and he's talking about how, like, he wasn't the dad that was there for her, reading her stories and being there and doing all that. And he says, well, that's not like me at all. Rose was kind of painting a picture of the dad that she wanted, but she could never have because he died and he was meant to die. And the Doctor knows that Pete dying is the only way to fix this. He just doesn't tell Rose because he doesn't want to upset her, but yeah, I like the fact that there are tensions between the Doctor and Rose as well, and the fact that Rose chose a selfish act because she wanted her dad back. You can understand why she wants her dad back, but the Doctor is concerned now as to why Rose wanted to join him in the TARDIS. Like, did she actually plan this all along, or was this something on a whim? And she admits that it was something on a whim, and she just thought about it, and she wanted to go and meet him. It is funny at the beginning how we see Pete and Jackie getting married. They go back to Rose's parents' wedding, and he gets Jackie's name wrong. And that was funny. Another funny moment is when the Doctor tells Jackie off when he's like, Jackie Tyler, go and check the doors. And she says, yes, sir. He's like, I should have done that ages ago. Christopher Eccleston is rather charming in this one, rather funny. As it goes on, the Doctor actually gets killed in this episode, which was bizarre, really. He does reappear at the end, of course, when Pete Tyler fixes everything. I don't know if that really needed to happen. I suppose it probably did, in the sense of highlighting the emphasis to fix everything, from Pete's perspective. Obviously, making Rose realise how serious her mistake was, and that the Doctor knew what he was talking about. And I like when the Doctor is talking to the baby Rose as well, because obviously at this point in time, Rose is a baby. And of course, if Rose touches the baby, she causes even more of a paradox, and the creatures can come inside the church. I think my one criticism of this story are the creatures. The creatures are okay. They're these like Reaper-looking things. The design is fairly basic. The CG is a little dated, but they're okay. They're decent enough. I'm not going to let it affect my enjoyment of the episode, but perhaps there could have been more intuition with their design, perhaps. But they're decent for what they are. A lot of the time, we do see POV shots from them, like from their vision, and it turns out they have red vision, which is interesting. We also see a younger version of Mickey as well. He's a little boy at this point. So it is interesting to see how different Jackie and Mickey are at this point, and also seeing Pete Tyler. I want to say as well, I think Pete Tyler is very well performed by Sean Dingwall. I think he really comes across as a very genuine father figure to Rose. Like I said, the best scenes of this episode are Billie Piper and Sean Dingwall. I mean, Billie Piper, this is definitely her best performance. Out of any episode I've seen her in, this is her best performance. I just think over time with Rose, they went too far making her emotional. With this particular story, it really works. It really works, and I really felt something. And like I said, I actually got to the point where I was a bit teary-eyed. I nearly broke down watching some of these scenes. They are very, very emotional. The script is written by Paul Cornell, and it's a very good script. It's a really lovely father-daughter story, but it's also a good Doctor Who story. Could have been more inclusion with the creatures, and Christopher Eccleston does take a bit of a back seat in this one, but I'll forgive it because the emotion is just so strong. I think for this one occasion, it was a good idea to place more focus on Rose, and we did see a bit of her home life in the beginning of the series, but I like that they really are focusing on this character and making her just as important as the Doctor. I will stand by my opinion that Rose is a slightly overrated companion, but I will always love this episode for the fact that it was brave enough to tell this story, because it's a very emotional story. And it couldn't have worked. There could have been part of this that could have been like, well, this isn't Doctor Who because it's too much focus on the companion. But there is still enough of it to feel like Doctor Who, if you know what I mean. It's very clever in the sense of her going back to when her dad died and trying to save her dad and all of that. So it is an emotional father-daughter story with a Doctor Who spin. But it really works. The direction by Joe Ahern is also very good, and like I said, incredibly emotional. You can't really ask for much more. I also think that the music by Murray Gold is just superb. The soundtrack for Father's Day is one of the best that he's ever composed. It's beautiful. It really is. The setting is nothing amazing. It's just 1987 London, but it's fine. I mean, it works for what it is. But I mean, for the story that they're telling, it had to be like that anyway. So yeah, the focus is not so much on where they are. It's more the intimacy of the father-daughter scenes. Now, Rose, you're not going to bring about the end of the world, are you? No. There are some light moments in this. There are some funny moments. And I particularly like the scene when Pete and Jackie are arguing when she's holding the baby Rose, and the present-day Rose is there listening to her parents argue and saying, oh my God, this is what they were like. The relationship between Pete and Jackie was very turbulent, and it was kind of upsetting to see that, and it was actually kind of heartbreaking, really, to watch that. So overall, I really like Father's Day. It's definitely one of the best for me. I will say perhaps that maybe the creatures could have been better designed, but they're okay for what they are for this one episode, and even though Eccleston takes a back seat, I still think he does a good job in the scenes he's in, but Billie Piper steals the show this time. So I can't help myself. I've got to give Father's Day a 10 out of 10. Because it was bold, it was brave, and it was intuitive. And also there's some nice flashbacks with Jackie and young Rose when she's telling her the story of Pete's death, and then it's slightly rewritten at the end for when the events of what happened in the episode change the course of that moment, when Jackie says, oh, there was a girl there that stood by him, that sat beside him when he died. Nobody knows why. So yeah, because obviously the paradox is fixed and nobody remembers what happened, so they've managed to fix that issue in time and space. So yeah, that's my review of Father's Day. What do you think of this one? Please comment down below, let me know. Stay tuned next time when I come to the second two-parter of this series, which will be The Empty Child and The Doctor Dances, written by Stephen Moffat, when he was a good writer. Cough, cough. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and as always, I'm Mr. TARDIS11. See you soon. Bye for now.